Hello everyone, I'm William the Storyteller, and I'm here to guide you into a peaceful rest tonight. Before we begin, take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel. It really helps. Also, let me know in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is for you right now. It began with fog. Thick, silent, and unmoving, it had rolled into the small village of Elmridge 3 days ago and had not lifted since. It wasn't the kind of fog that drifted gently across the moors or danced along the river. No, this fog was heavy, damp, and ever-present. Like a veil dropped from the heavens, it wrapped every house, every tree, every person in Elmridge in a pale gray hush. Margaret Holloway, the town's oldest living resident, had seen the fog before. What? When she was a little girl. She had told stories about it over the years. Tales of the hollow fog that whispered at night and creaked under floorboards. Of neighbors vanishing during quiet walks. Of eyes in the mist that never blinked. People had laughed, of course, called her superstitious or just tired and old. But Margaret never laughed. And now, as the fog returned, she didn't speak at all. Her windows remained tightly shut, curtains drawn, candles lit during the day. She kept an old brass bell beside her bedside, something from her father's study, a bell he told her to ring if ever the fog returned and she heard the knocking. She hadn't rung it. Not yet. But she kept her hand close. Down the lane, in the brick house with ivy growing through the shutters, young Olivia and her brother Eli stared through the condensation on their bedroom window. They watched the fog swirl outside like steam rising from the earth. Their parents were gone on a trip, stranded by the weather, and they were staying with their grandmother, who rarely spoke and often forgot their names. But this morning she remembered clearly. "Don't go outside," she had said in a voice sharper than they'd ever heard from her. "Why?" Olivia had asked. The old woman looked at the fog, then back at Olivia. "Because the fog remembers, and it listens." That evening, as the sun sank unseen behind the haze, something knocked on the front door. 3 soft taps. Just enough to be heard over the ticking of the mantel clock. The children froze. Their grandmother turned pale. She took them both by the hand and ushered them into the kitchen, locking the door behind them. She lit a single candle and pulled them into the corner, away from the window. Her hand trembled as she whispered, "It doesn't knock twice if you don't answer." The knock came again. 3 more taps. Slow. Hollow. Olivia wanted to ask who it was, but the look in her grandmother's eyes stopped her. So she held her breath, squeezed Eli's hand, and waited. Minutes passed. The candle flickered. The house creaked. Then, silence. The knock did not come again. That night, while the town slept, or tried to, the fog thickened. So thick that the street lamps became blurred halos. So thick that it seemed to soak into the skin. It muffled sounds, turned footsteps into ghosts. It was as if the world itself had been placed underwater. In the woods near Elmridge, something moved. It wasn't a creature, not one with a name. It didn't stalk or growl or breathe heavily. It simply appeared. A tall, thin silhouette, like a man stretched too far, wearing what might have been a coat or skin or smoke. It moved with no sound but always left footprints, deep and wet in the mud. They said if you saw it, you wouldn't remember the details, only the shape and the way it made you feel like a child again, lost in a nightmare. By morning, the town was different. Mail didn't come. Phones didn't work. The church bell rang once, then stopped. And a house on the edge of town, the Willow Cottage, was empty. Doors open. Tea still warm. The family gone. Margaret Holloway did not leave her room. She clutched her bell tighter. She knew what came next. They would hear the scratching. It started at the base of the walls. Light at first like mice in the dark. Then sharper. Longer. Like claws dragged slowly against wood. Sometimes it came from above. Sometimes below. And always when no one else could hear it. Only the ones it had chosen. It chose Henry the baker on the 3rd day. He walked out of his shop mid-need, flour on his hands, and stepped directly into the fog. Never came back. His apron was found in the alley the next morning, hanging on a hook that hadn't been there the night before. It chose little Ruthie on the 4th day. She spoke of the lady in the fog and the lullaby she sang. Her mother locked the doors and windows, but Ruthie vanished anyway, right from her bed. No sign of struggle. Just a stuffed rabbit with its ear torn, placed neatly on the windowsill. On the 5th day, the fog reached the chapel. Father Wilkes rang the bell twice, 2 hollow, desperate tolls that echoed strangely in the mist. Then nothing. Silence. Until the singing started. Oh, distant. A woman's voice just under the edge of hearing. Humming a tune that made the hairs on people's arms stand up. Those who listened too long found themselves standing at their doors, hands on the latch, not knowing why. Margaret rang the bell that night. 3 sharp rings. It echoed through the village, a sound not heard in over 70 years. The signal. Others followed. Old families who remembered the tales, or those who had read the hidden journals kept under floorboards and inside hollow books. They lit candles, chanted names, closed all mirrors and covered the clocks. It wasn't enough, because the fog was not just weather. It was memory. A memory that had waited, fed by old sorrow, drawn to the cracks in the world. Every tragedy, every lost child, every whispered curse left behind, it remembered. And now it had come back to collect. On the 6th day, the fog seeped into the homes. Through keyholes, under thresholds, it whispered names. The air grew thick with forgotten dreams. People saw things that weren't there, or things they had forgotten. Faces of old lovers, pets long dead, family that had passed away. The fog used their grief, wove it into its body, and made itself stronger. Olivia saw her mother that night, standing at the edge of her bed, face pale, dress soaked, smiling, hands out. Olivia would have gone to her. But Eli was awake and he whispered, "Don't look. That's not her." And when she turned back, the woman was gone. Only wet footprints remained. On the 7th day, Margaret Holloway opened her door. She was dressed in black, eyes cloudy but aware. She walked into the street with the old brass bell in one hand, and in the other, a lantern made of green glass. No one followed her. She walked alone into the center of town, to the ancient tree, the one older than any house, older than the church, older than Elmridge itself. She hung the bell on the lowest branch, lit the lantern, and whispered words no one understood. Then the fog began to scream. Not loud, not piercing. A soft, endless wail, like sorrow stretched thin, like a child crying beneath water. The lantern shattered. The bell rang once more, and the fog began to rise. Upward, backward, away. It peeled from the walls, rolled off the roofs, pulled back into the woods. By morning it was gone. Only dew remained, and silence. Margaret Holloway was never seen again. Some say she entered the fog willingly. Others say she was its final price. But from that day on, no fog lingered in Elmridge longer than a single night.